If you fly over Oxfordshire, it is impossible to miss the concentric rings carved into the landscape at Wittenham Clumps. The sheer footprint of this Iron Age hillfort commands the surrounding terrain. Down on the ground, the scale becomes physical. The builders dug defensive ditches up to 16 meters across and nearly 8 meters deep, moving thousands of tons of earth, clay, and chalk entirely by hand. Looking at this massive perimeter, historians traditionally viewed it through a military lens, a stronghold built to repel raiders and survive tribal invasion. Staring solely at this intimidating military architecture has historically obscured the reality of what happened inside the walls. In 2021, the Earth Trust, the environmental charity that cares for the site, planned to upgrade their visitor center at the base of the hill. Standard protocol required a thorough archaeological survey before breaking ground. The team used ground-penetrating geophysics to scan the soil. The readout returned virtually nothing. Aside from a couple of minor anomalies, the data suggested an empty field, a quiet military buffer zone sitting in the shadow of the fortress. Modern scanning technology was blind to the reality of the site. As soon as the team put physical shovels into the dirt, they realized they were standing on a massive buried community. The supposedly empty field was actually a sprawling neighborhood that had been continuously occupied for generations. The digging revealed a dense Iron Age footprint, more than a dozen large roundhouses, each measuring around 10 meters in diameter. Then, stacked on top of the prehistoric layers, they found the sprawling stone foundations of an enormous Roman villa built centuries later, during the 3rd or 4th century. What is visible in the excavation trench is only about a quarter of the actual structure. The rest of the villa's winged corridor design remains buried in the surrounding fields. The continuous layers of occupation, from Iron Age roundhouses to the Roman estate, reveal a landscape of prime real estate where generations of families built their lives. To understand those lives, we must scale down from broad architectural layouts and dig directly into intimate daily routines buried in the living room floors. The soil was packed with the artifacts of mundane chores. The team pulled out cooking pots, stone-built corn-drying ovens, and bone needles used for sewing clothing. They found highly preserved personal items in the dirt, including an intricately carved Roman bone comb, connecting the site directly to the private grooming habits of its residents. The human remains discovered nearby reflect a life of hard, repetitive labor. Skeletons over the age of 30 showed severe arthritis and unhealed injuries, alongside evidence of chronic malnutrition and tooth decay. Mixed into the refuse pits alongside the human inhabitants, researchers found the complete, intact skeletons of ravens. These intact bird skeletons suggest the inhabitants kept ravens as semi-domesticated companions. The evidence reveals a community of farmers preoccupied with grinding grain, managing chronic joint pain, and caring for household pets. The discoveries at Wittenham Clumps force a complete redefinition of what an archaeological monument represents. For the archaeologists, mapping out these tightly packed domestic spaces shrinks the emotional gap between modern homeowners and Iron Age families. To bring that domestic history back to the surface, the Earth Trust is constructing 3 full-scale replica Iron Age roundhouses for visitors to explore. Understanding human history requires us to stop staring only at the intimidating defensive ramparts and start looking closely at the living room floors they were built to protect.